Air quotes had a way of magnifying power. Uniforms mattered. Voices mattered. And sometimes silence mattered most. On a humid afternoon, Gate C-17 buzzed with the impassioned energy of travelers waiting to board a regional flight. Rolling suitcases clicked against tile. Children whined. Announcements droned overhead. At the center of it all stood Captain Marcus Holle, a black pilot in a crisp white uniform, wings gleaming on his chest, flight bag resting at his side. Marcus had flown for 12 years. He had logged thousands of hours, crossed continents, and landed through storms that made seasoned passengers pray. Today was routine. He had arrived early, checked weather, reviewed the manifest, and exchanged nods with crew members who knew him well. As boarding time approached, he stepped toward the jet bridge, badge visible, posture calm. That was when a man stepped into his path. The man was older, silver-haired, wearing an expensive blazer and a tight smile. He carried himself with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "Excuse me," the man said, eyes flicking to Marcus's face and then to his uniform. "Crew entrance is restricted." Marcus blinked once. "I am the crew," he replied evenly, lifting his badge slightly. The man frowned, as if the answer offended him. "I don't think so," he said. "Pilots don't look like that. You need to wait with the passengers." The words landed softly, but their weight was familiar. Marcus felt the old tightening in his chest, the practiced patience rising like a shield. Around them, the line slowed. A few passengers watched, curiosity sharpening into discomfort. "I'm the captain for this flight," Marcus said. "If you have a concern, we can ask the gate agent." The man shook his head. "I'm a frequent flyer," he insisted. "I know the rules. You don't belong here." For a moment, Marcus considered walking away, finding a supervisor, letting process smooth the adjust, but the jet bridge clock ticked. The crew was waiting. He took a breath. "Sir," he said, "please step aside." Instead, the man raised his voice. "This is unbelievable," he announced to the nearby crowd. "They'll let anyone pretend to be a pilot now." A murmur rippled. Phones appeared. A gate agent hurried over, eyes darting between them. "What seems to be the problem?" she asked. "This man is trying to access the plane," the older man said quickly. "He's not crew." The agent turned to Marcus, scanned his badge, then smiled. "Captain Halle, welcome," she said. "We're ready for you." The man's face flushed. "That's impossible," he said. "Check again." The agent kept her smile, but her voice cooled. "Sir, please move aside." The man crossed his arms. "I want security," he demanded. "If something happens, it's on you." Security arrived within minutes, their presence drawing more attention. Marcus stood still, hands relaxed, eyes forward. He answered questions calmly, producing credentials, repeating his name. Each confirmation felt redundant, but necessary. Finally, a supervisor approached, recognition brightening his expression. "Marcus," he said warmly, extending a hand. "Good to see you." The older man's confidence wavered. "So he really is a pilot?" he asked, incredulous. "He's one of our best," the supervisor replied. The man scoffed, searching for dignity. "Well," he said, "you can't blame me for being careful." Silence answered him. Passengers looked away. A woman whispered to her partner. The man stepped back, muttering. Marcus thanked the staff and turned toward the jet bridge. As he walked, the noise faded, replaced by the familiar hum of duty. In the cockpit, his first officer greeted him with a grin. "Everything okay, Captain?" "Just another delay," Marcus said lightly. They pushed back on time. The flight lifted smoothly, clouds parting beneath the wings. In the cabin, the older man sat stiffly, eyes forward, the earlier certainty gone. 3 minutes after takeoff, the seatbelt sign chimed off. Routine resumed. Later, as they cruised, Marcus reflected on the moment. Karma wasn't thunder or applause. Sometimes it was simply the quiet proof of truth, the plane rising despite doubt, the job done despite obstruction. When they landed, passengers clapped. Marcus smiled, knowing he belonged exactly where he was. The memory followed him, not as anger, but as a reminder of how easily authority could be questioned when wrapped in prejudice. The applause faded as passengers stood and reached for their bags. Marcus completed the shutdown checklist with practiced precision, every movement calm, deliberate. Flying had always been the one place where noise dissolved, where gravity itself obeyed rules that made sense. Yet even as the engines cooled, the earlier confrontation lingered at the edges of his thoughts, like turbulence after clear skies. As the cabin door opened, the lead flight attendant stepped into the cockpit. "Great landing, Captain," she said. "Smooth as always." "Thank you," Marcus replied. "Anything unusual back there?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "No trouble, just looks. People thinking." Marcus understood. He always did. After deplaning, he walked down the jet bridge, flight bag over his shoulder. At the gate, the same supervisor who had intervened earlier waited for him. Marcus Shea said quietly, "I wanted to apologize for what happened. It shouldn't have gone that far." Marcus Shea considered his words carefully. "I appreciate that," he said. "But it's not really about today, is it?" The supervisor sighed. "No, it isn't." They shook hands, and Marcus headed toward the crew lounge. Inside, the familiar smell of burnt coffee and recycled air greeted him. Other pilots lounged on couches, scrolling phones, trading stories. A younger pilot, fresh-faced and nervous, looked up as Marcus entered. "Captain Holly," he said quickly, standing. "I just wanted to say, I saw what happened at the gate. I'm sorry." Marcus nodded. "Thanks. Sit down. You don't need to stand." The young pilot obeyed, then blurted, "Does it ever get easier?" Marcus paused, setting his bag down. "You learn how to carry it," he said. "That's different from easy." He poured himself coffee, black, and stared into the cup. Memories surfaced, uninvited. His first solo flight. His mother crying when she saw him in uniform. His father's quiet pride, mixed with worry, the day Marcus told him he wanted to fly commercially. Back then, people had laughed. Flight school instructors questioned his commitment. Recruiters suggested other paths. Through it all, Marcus had focused on the sky. Planes didn't care who you were. Visits didn't care. Skill mattered. Preparation mattered. Everything else was noise. His phone buzzed. A message from his sister. Saw the video. "You okay?" He frowned. Video. He opened social media reluctantly. There it was, a shaky clip from the gate, already racking up views. Comments flooded in, some supportive, some cruel, some dismissive. Marcus closed the app, jaw tightening. The younger pilot watched him. "People can be awful," he said. "Yes," Marcus agreed, "but they can also learn." Later that evening, Marcus checked into his hotel. The room was quiet, anonymous. He stood by the window, watching planes take off into the dark, blinking lights carving paths through night. He thought about the man at the gate, about the certainty in his voice, the ease with which he denied Marcos his place. What haunted Marcos so wasn't the insult itself. It was how ordinary it was. The next morning, the airline's operations manager called. "Marcos," she said, "we'd like to talk to you about yesterday." Media's picked it up. "I figured," Marcos replied. "We want to make a statement. And, if you're willing, we'd like you to be part of it." Marcus was silent for a moment. He had always preferred action to speeches, performance to promises. But maybe silence had its limits. "I'll listen," he said. By noon, the story had spread. Headlines framed it as karma, justice, humiliation. Marcus disliked the framing. It made the moment smaller, almost entertaining. The truth was heavier. In interviews, he chose his words carefully. "I don't want anyone fired," he said calmly into a microphone. "I don't want revenge. I want understanding. I want a future where my presence doesn't surprise anyone." Some reporters nodded. Others looked disappointed, as if restraint was less interesting than outrage. The airline released a statement affirming its commitment to diversity and respect. Training reviews were announced. Policies were reiterated. Marcus's new statements alone didn't change minds, but they opened doors. Days later, on another flight, Marcus noticed a boy in the front row staring at him with wide eyes. The boy tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered urgently. She smiled, then nudged him forward. "Go on," she said. The boy approached the cockpit entrance cautiously. "Are you really the pilot?" he asked. Marcus knelt to his level. "I am," he said. The boy grinned. "I want to be one too." Marcus felt something loosen inside his chest. "Then you should," he said. "Study hard, Ask questions. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. The boy nodded solemnly, as if receiving a sacred instruction, then ran back to his seat. As the door closed and the engine spooled up, Marcus settled into his chair. The runway stretched ahead, lights guiding the way forward. He thought about karma again, about how people loved neat endings, but life wasn't neat. It was layered, unfinished, demanding effort long after the moment passed. The plane accelerated, the ground fell away. In that ascent, Marcus found quiet resolve. He would keep flying. He would keep showing up, not to prove anything to doubters, but to claim what was already his. Above the clouds, the sky opened wide, indifferent and infinite, welcoming him as it always had. The flight climbed through a pale morning sky, sunlight spilling across the cockpit in soft gold bands. Marcus adjusted the throttle and listened to the steady rhythm of the engines, a sound that had always grounded him more than any speech ever could. Up here, everything had purpose. Every dial, every switch, every checklist existed to keep people safe. There was no room for assumptions, only facts. As they leveled off, his first officer glanced at him. "You've been getting a lot of attention lately," she said gently. Marcus smiled faintly. "Not the kind you trained for," she nodded. "Still, you handled it with grace." Gracie rolled the word around in his mind. People often praised restraint when it came from those expected to endure. He appreciated the sentiment, but he also knew grace wasn't endless. It had to be replenished, earned again each day. After landing, Marcus walked through the terminal in uniform. Normally, he moved unnoticed, just another pilot among many. Today, a few heads turned. A couple of passengers smiled at him with recognition. One woman stopped him briefly. "I saw what happened," she said. "Thank you for how you handled it." "Thank you for saying that," Marcus replied. Moments like that mattered more than viral clips. They were quiet, human, real. That evening, Marcus visited his parents' house. His mother hugged him tightly, longer than usual. "I worry," she admitted softly. "Even now, I know," Marcus said, "but I'm okay." His father watched from the doorway, pride etched deep into his face. "You flew the plane," he said simply. "That's what matters." After dinner, Marcus sat alone on the porch, listening to cicadas hum in the dark. He thought about the boy on the plane, about the young pilot in the lounge, about himself years ago, staring up at the sky and daring to imagine a place in it. He knew tomorrow wouldn't be different. Someone else would question him. Another gate, another look, another doubt. Progress didn't erase the past overnight. It moved slowly, carried forward by repetition, by presence, by people refusing to disappear. A week later, Marcus stood at another gate, waiting to board another flight. The crowd buzzed, just as it always did. A man glanced at him, hesitated, then stepped aside without a word. It was a small thing, barely noticeable, but Marcus noticed. The small shifts were how change began. He walked down the jet bridge, unchallenged this time, and entered the cockpit. As he set his bag down, he felt the familiar calm settle over him. This was his space. This was his work. This was where he belonged. When the plane lifted off, Marcus looked out over the city shrinking below. Roads became lines. Buildings became patterns. Differences faded into perspective. Up here, humanity shared the same fragile reliance on skill, trust, and care. He knew the story would fade from headlines soon. Another outrage would take its place. But he also knew that somewhere, someone had seen him and recalibrated their understanding, even slightly. And somewhere else, a child was imagining a future that looked a little more possible. The sky welcomed him again, vast and unchanged, and Marcus flew on, steady and certain, carrying more than passengers with him.